go back to one Kodah Benegeta Chayes. He brought two Mishalim Benegeta Er. So one of them is Er Hashemesh, and it means Benegeta Chayes. So I'll just go back to this prat. See another thing. Making a Be'er Chayes and Neveshim Chayes Aguf. We'll just see the Benegeta Chayes. So also Chayes, so you have the Nefesh. It's the same thing when you get, we're speaking when you get Hashpa. So you have the Mashpia and the Mekabel, but they're called by Shefa. They say there is since the Mashpia is Shalei Be'erech higher than the Mekabel. Shalei Be'erech, or Kapan, the Mashpia is higher than the Mekabel. So in order for the Hashpa, for the Dover and Nishpa to go over from the Mashpia to the Mekabel, it has to go through a Tzimtzum. It has to be Mishtane. And the Mele, it has to be, someone has to do it. It's not going to happen in Mele from Mele. But we say that the Hispashtas Ha'er is Be'erech Mele. The Shem just doesn't, you don't need any Tirdavis Askus to be mated the Hashpa to the Mekabel. So what's the something happens with Derech HaMeila? Manavshach, if the Mashpia, if the Elyon, if the Dov is the Dvar Ashpa stays the way it is in the Makar. The Makar is always higher than the Ashpa. Speaking when you get the Nefesh V'guf. The Nefesh is the Makar Achayis. Even the Pashtus, the Makar Achayis is the Guf is the Makabel. The Guf Mitzadatz is not a Chay. The Guf is Makabel Chayis in the Nefesh. So the Guf is not a Keli to Chayis the way the Nefesh is a Davar Chay. The Pashtus Advar. There's the Guf is it's beifanacher, whatever the beer is, but the lashon that using chassidus is that the nevesh is a chay be'etzem. The mehusay is chay, he's be'etzem a chay. Mashik and the gov is be'etzem not a davar chay. It's a meis shenas a chay. But Agapanim is a different. So l'chore the chayis has to be mishtan in order for the chayis to be masim. That the guf should be able to be chay from the chayis, it has to go through a shinui. So l'chore how could it be with derech hamela? Derech hamela, if you say a stone's not going to fly if no one's going to do anything. You have a keichatnu in your hand to throw an even. Why is it not going to happen? Or the Rav, why Derech Mele you don't say it since the Rav understands the Svara? The Mele the Talmud understand. It's not the Mele. The Mele things stay the way they are originally. The way that it's originally, it's Masim to the Meich HaRav. It's not Masim to the Meich HaTalmud. So what's his Derech Mele? So we bald the Nefesh is a lebed gazach, but the Chai is the way the Nefesh has it, is Shalei Be'erech higher than the Guf. So if no one's Meshana it, Derech Mele it's going to be in a way that's Masim to the Mekabel. Dafür ist doch Meshana sein. So what does it say? It's Arabavad. When do you have to be Mishana? Arabavad doesn't explain yet. Arabavad is just saying that he's not. When is there a tzerich of his askos and shini? When does the mashpia have to be Mishana? If taka there's a shini in the inyan, so you have the ashpa the way it is in the alien, and the inyan is being mishtana. Mashenkin if the ashpa is only a Arabavad, means the ashpa taka shalei be'erech to the makar. In the ashpa there's no substance of the makar. So then there's nothing to be mishtana. But the shayla is Arabavad, so viver tashpa. That's what we're saying last time. When you say Arabavad, you're saying that the reason why the Elyon is mashpia is because the Elyon is not mugable to be dafkan eifin of mashpia. Yeah, that's what we spoke about last time. Anytime you say that there's ashba, which is neveya, mitzad the head rakbal of the Elyon, because the Elyon is not mugable to have the inyan in a certain way, always the ashba is going to be shalei berech to the mashpia. Because the ashpa is the tzir prati. You say the guf is mekabel chayis. That's a davar prati that just happened. The guf lechatchila was a mace, and now it's mekabel chayis. So the fact that the guf is a chay is there's a certain akbala to that chayis. What's the akbala? It's be'etzem not a chay. It was mekabel chayis. Lepel mamish, it's living, it's moving, it's walking, it's talking. You could measure, let's say, the expression of the chayis in the guf. Chayis mitzadatzma. The reason why chayis is mizgale is because it's beyond measure. Use the mashal of the Shimshon Gibber. Lepoil when he's pushing the table. So what do you see a pull of pratis? The table is being pushed. If someone's going to look at it from the outside, he's going to say a table is being pushed. But etzem the koyach was never mitztayer in the tzir of pushing a pull. So a table being pushed is ha'ar b'vad the gabi the koyach. You see, how does it? Because the koyach is not mugbal, so a mele you can do anything. But the koyach is not mugbal, and that heder akbala is never mizbata begoli, because gili is always akbala. Is always a davar prati. The tnua which is behind this davar prati, which is a tnua built in migbelas, is always shalei be'erech to the pula pratis. If you have a mashpia, a makir, which is not mugbal, and mitzad the fact that he's not mugbal, he's also begili, he's also mashpia davar goli. But begili you never see the bligvol, because begili if begili means that it's an expressed lepel. Expressed lepel you're always going to see a certain agbala. How is it expressed? You're saying the nefesh's chayis cannot be nizgale, the ifin chayis, because nizgale means you're living global. Living global, I could measure what type of life is being lived over here. He's living this and this amount of time. This and this, he's doing kach v'kach. But the mahus of chayis is never mitztayer natzir of how much he's living. how many years. It's a mahus which is higher than these type of agbolas. Because the mahus of Chaim is higher than all agbolas, b'meila it could even be mechaya guf. But what's mechaya guf? Mitzad nefesh, the chay is guf, because the chay is not mugbal. But when it's expressed begoli, in the expression you can't. It's not even a percentage of the mahus of the alien. So what we're saying is by regular ashpa you have, to use different words, you have regular ashpa, you have the inyan, you have the makar, and you have the inyan which is being nishpa, the thing is say the Rab is giving over a seichel, and you have the eif in the way the seichel is. You have the eif in the way the seichel is in the Me'ech HaRav, let's say in the edel eifin. You have the eif in the way the seichel is in the Me'ech HaTalmud. Now there's two eifanim in the seichel. The mahus of seichel is mischalik that there's two eifanim in the mahus of seichel. You have seichel the way the Rab understands it. That's the edel. He sees the edelkeit of the svara. And you have the seichel the way it's misamtzin, the way the Talmud sees it. So on one hand, the seichel Talmud is not me'ein Rav, because he doesn't have, because it's the seichel the way it's mitztayer in the tzir of the Talmud. Le'idach, there's two. There's a schalkas now in seichel. You have the svar the way the Rav understands. You have the svar the way the Talmud has it. But you have the svar the way the Talmud has it. So you can't say it's an audible vad. It's not an audible vad. It's a mitzias. It's a mamashas for itself. There's the seichel the way it's mitztayer in the Me'ech HaTalmud. That's a mamashas. The etzem was now mitztayer in the tzir of the mekabel. So it's not an audible vad. Audible vad means that this inyan is nothing mitzad atzmei, as no mahus, as no etzem. But we're saying we have the inyan of chayis, let's say, or the inyan of behirus, doesn't make a difference. You have the way it is in the makar, which is, let's say, not in agbolah de kaifin, and you have the way it's expressed, the way it's begoli, the way it's experienced. So we're saying, as Evil from Gezagt, you have, let's say the gilui is gvol. We'll call it the gilui gvol, because gilui, by definition, is always a certain isgalus, so it has to be. It's expressed in something. A person is living, how long is he going to live? The gilui is going to have a certain agbolah. You're experiencing lepoil. So you have the eifin of gilui, you have the eifin the way it is be'etzim, which is higher than agbolas. So you have chayis the way it is be'etzim, you have chayis the way it is begilui. If it would be in eifin of shefa, the avana would be, they have the mahus of chayis the way it is in the tzir of etzim, and you have the mahus of chayis the way it is in the tzir of gilui. That would be not audible that. Then chayis, then you have the mahus davar. You have the mahus davar the way it's mistar in the tzir of the makabel. Then it wouldn't be audible vad. Then the mekabel is a mahus b'fnei atzmei. Then the chayis that relates to the guf is the nefesh is not mischalik. Or not mischalik b'gashmis. The semi svara is mischalik. You have that percentage of the svara that the Rav understands. You have that percentage of the svara that's shaykh to the Talmud. So you'd have that percentage of chayis that's in the etzim. You have a percentage of chayis that relates to gilui. So then it wouldn't be audible vad. Then the gilui is a mahus for itself. Because the etzim was not misamtzim to be in a eifin, that he could be in a tzir of gilui. So if you have the same way the Rav, Talmud doesn't need the Rav now after he understands the svar. Here we're saying that the chayis is only, there's no chayis the way it is mitztayer in the tzir of gilui. Chayis always stays bligvul. Chayis is never mitztayer in the tzir of gilui. But since it's bligvul, it could be meir also. You could see it. It doesn't have that ball, it has to be dafka betzim. It could be mizgal also. But from the point of view of chayis, the fact that it's begilui is another expression of the fact that it's not mugbal. Not that it's mitztayer in the tzir of gilui. The chayis kamei shehu is not mugbal. The etzem kamei shehu is not mugbal in the akbalas of etzem and gilui. So maybe it could be begilui too. If you have an inyan, which the chatchil is not mugbal in a specific form, so maybe it could be in any form. Not because he relates to that form, but if you look at the form itself, that's not b'chlal, not the mahus. There's no mahus in the form itself. If you look at the form of gilui, that's nothing. There's no substance in gilui itself. If you have the etzem, so once you have the etzem, you can have everything. But the gilui doesn't stand on its own. Because the fact that the eretz is begilui is not because gilui contains the inyan, it's because the etzem has not bolus. Versteht the meaning?
What's the right that the etzem and nefesh is etzem and bligvul?
Because that's in Zen. Gerade brings it, but I'm saying, but even with before going that, we say when you get there, I feel in this inyan akapanim. The Gabi Shemesh L'mashal. He says Shemesh. Why is it if the shemesh, if the eifin was that the behirus is mispashit, that the gufa shemesh a little bit is mispashit b'dugmas mayim, so why can't he keep the light over here? Why b'shas shemesh is nishka vert es Why? If the same way when water a little bit water came here, so now I chadaf neshama the yam. So I from yam, but once I don't need the yam anymore. Why when the light of the sun comes here I can't preserve it? Because it's the shemesh that's being mispashit. It's not that there's no mitzvah of mispashtus besides the shemesh. The shemesh is amasar zach. When you have it, it's mispasha too. This it is not limited to stay dafke in the sun. This it is mispasha. Not that the it is mitztayer and he comes down to his pashtus. When you have the etzem of the shemesh, it's b'meila mispasha. You can't. So there's no way to preserve the light because the light is. There's no mahus in the light. It's the mahus is it's the shemesh is being mispashed. So you take this parsha out of the shemesh, you can't shnemi. The same way you can't take the reflection without taking the thing. You can't take a shadow without the person because the shadow is not a separate mitzvah. It's the person's reflection. It's all misyachas to the etzem. It's the etzem's head that agbola. Not that there's a mitzvah of his pashtus.
So both becoming megillah. One's misad because it's instire, and one's
because the etzem is not mugbal. Yeah. Oh, so Chai is Chai is definitely the Zalbazach. He's going to bring me the Gabi Chai to see the same thing that Chai is not mugbal. Okay, we'll see. First of all, he says etzem ish in begeder Chai lachis. That's the man based on begeder. He wants to bring out the ein areich. What's how do you know if something's ha'ara and not a davar atzmi? The klal is if the shefa, if the davar which the mekabel gets has an erech to the mashpia, so then you say that it's not a arable vat. So then if it has epis a percentage, you have a seichel omik and a seichel shitchi. A seichel shitchi is not a ha'arable vat. The gabe a seichel omik. There's a little bit seichel. There's a little bit a bissel from the svar. You have in the seichel shitchi. It's not a ha'arable vat. Ha'arable vat means that if the gili is be'ein arech to the etzem, means there's nothing in the gili. That there's no percentage in the gili of the etzem. Then you say ha'arable vat. So he says etzem hanefesh eini begeder chayis lachis. Why not? He says, "In a chayis lahachis, who b'chinas espashtus, b'chol etzem bilti b'spashit, u'memele eni b'chinas chayis lahachis." Yeah, this is not so izgeteicht. Yeah, but akopanim, the nekuda is that I say when you get to the nefesh, I was saying last time. This prat I was saying last time that the nefesh is the mahus. It's the identity. It's not. Lahachis means something that is mitzias, is the takeif and the chayzik of the mitzias is totally in a makabel. That's not in Yona is that something else should be margishit. You should be nigger somewhere else. That's not the nukud of etzem. The nukud of the you say etzem the person himself, the etzem nefesh is that he's a mechus b'fnei atzmei, that he's a mitzias. So chayis by definition is a nukud of etzem. Of not a tzir. This is the nukud that we didn't go through last time. You're saying what's the raya that the nefesh is a nukud of pshitz of bligvo. The nukud of etzem because the nefesh is the muhus, not a mitzias. Say what's the difference between you say a person or a balchai or a chayvetz? A chayvetz is a certain mitzias, a certain tzir. About chai, someone that has there's a I behind there. There's a me behind things. There's a someone. There's not another mitzias. He's the makir kaviyachol. He's the chai. He contains everything. But he's the beginning. That's what I'm saying. It's not ich that's behind everything. He's not dependent on something else. He represents the truth, Kaviyachol. He's the mohus of the Inyan. I'm saying the etzem nefesh. The makar chayis. What's his? He's a davar chay. He's a mohus chay. What does it mean? He's a mohus chay. You have something which is a mitzias. Is a table is a mitzias. So it's not by definition. He's not the mohus. He has no mohus. He's not the. He's not the. I don't know. He's not the. He doesn't represent a truth. Let's say. He's not a real mitzias. It's just a piece of matter that exists. He doesn't represent anything, that there's something that he represents. It's a certain truth, there's a chai means that there's a teich over here. It's not stam, there's another something, another heftze that's here. There's a gavra, there's someone that he's a makir from mitzias. He's a beginning of things. He's an etzem for things. He's not dependent on something else. He's a makir. Yeah, but I'm saying those different. I'm saying the Pashas Dharm, you say the musig of or you could say it a little bit different. You say the musig of etzem. You're saying that he's a regular thing. Let's say a table is a chayfetz, so it's a chaser ba'atzmei. The nefesh is the makar chayis is. He's He's the shlemus of his inyan. He contains his inyan. That is onkom mitzvah sandish. Let's say it that way. Etzem means that for the shlemus of his inyan, that is onkom mitzvah tzveiter zach. He's the etzem. He's independently this inyan. That is onkom mitzvah tzveiter zach. See, a table has no mohus, has no shlemus within itself. It's a thing, a specific type of thing. The etzem is he represents a full form of reality. Let's say. He contains within himself. The seichel has. What's the word that the nefesh has? Seichel and midis and shilbush machshava dibur ma'aser. Represents a full shleimus of a mahus. He has the quality of existence without akbalas. Let's say, in the most and any shleimus of mitzias, this nefesh contains. He's a someone. He's not a totally in something else. He's a someone. He contains the musik of chayis with all the shleimusim. So he has all forms of chayis. He's able to seichel is mashlim. If you have seichel or midis, it's not a certain mitzias, a certain form. It's a mucker. It's an etzem which contains the shleimus hadover.
But can be he's just like very very strong. So he has a lot of different cases.
Is like an idea of some horse is like.
Yeah, what I'm saying was it's not very very strong. Very very strong. So then he wouldn't contain everything. He's a makar achayis. A person lives, and then the person could grow in his life. He has. I'm saying there's no. It's about this not. A person is very strong. There's a nakuda of yeah. Etzem is also a nakuda of pshittis. So we're saying this mahus is a chai. Not that this. You're saying the mahus is garnished. We give him a lot of things. That's not the Nakuda of Nefesh. Kodesh, that this Mahus is the Balabas. He contains things. Not the Megittim Asav Zachen. This Mahus is a Shalom. Not that this Mahus Betzim is a garnished. No, what man eingestellt, he has Seichel, he has Midas. You can put on a table also different things. You can give it a color. It's not that there's no one that contains this color. There's Mitzias here. So there's a plastic, and then you put on a color, and this thing and that thing. There's no Nakuda which is the marker which von em stammt die ganze Sache. The Nefesh is saying that the Nefesh is a mohos that he contains whatever he needs for the shlemas of his mitzias. There's a Nakuda of Etzem here that wasn't a Nakuda of Etzem. He has a mohos without chesrenis in this mohos. He contains everything that he needs for the shlemas of his mitzias. Means that there's a certain mohos which carries all the shlemas of the inyan. He's the one that's killed everything. He's the mohus of chayis. That's why it's in Tanya that etzem hanevesh is pshittis. It's not a nakud of tzir. And it's not tzir means that there's a certain form here. It's not. That is in Tanya Beikner and Aleph. It says also in Beikner Kera can sein steht das hier. Where his meirechet over here is in the mimer of. It's one of the Maimon in the beginning. He's the whole arichas of the nefesh is not a tzir prati. That's the nakuda of Atzin. What I'm saying, when you're saying here is, when you say chayis lahachis, you're saying that it's a certain tzir. Chayis lahachis means that it's a certain form of chayis. The guf be'etzim is not a davar chay. So in was bashtet as are left in the chayis guf, the lapel mamish for this and this amount of years he's living. So there's a certain akbalah to the kim, to the chayis guf. And he's able to understand kach v'kach. The marker which has no hagbala in vifula left, and no hagbala in the echos of life. He's the shlemus of amitzias of that's called the etzem. The etzem means he's the mohos without he's the shlemus of this mohos. He's the shlemus of this inyan. And etzem hanevesh a mohos means that he's a shalom, that he contains the inyan within himself. He's the marker for seichel. He's the marker for midas. Not that he's mekabelet from somewhere. So it's an akud of mohos. Every other mitzvah, we're saying there's no etzem in it. The table is a certain limited form of reality, whatever the table is. The nefesh is a mucker for chayis, a mucker for life. It means an identity which is a source of a. So it represents a certain shleimus of a mohos, a certain perfection of a mohos of chayim. So it's not a mitzvah; it's a different. Yeah. I'm saying, but le'inyanenu lama das anrufin that the etzem nefesh, the chayis, is not mugbal. Let's say it in a simple way, and that's called in other words. An etzem means that he has this inyan without akbalas. He has this inyan b'shlemusay. That's the etzem. if you have an inyan shalei b'shleimusay, so you're not the etzem of the inyan. You're a mekabel of the inyan. You're not the resource for the inyan, let's say, or you're not the ultimate of the inyan. Etzem nefesh means that he has the inyan b'shleimusay. He's the ultimate ideal of that inyan. Let's call that etzem nefesh. So the ultimate ideal of chayis is not chayis in agbolidik way, but chayis in a blikvol. I mean blikvol, not an agbolidik form of chayis. Chayis lahachis is a mugbolidik chayis. The guf is going to live for a certain amount of years, so it's a agbolidik chayis. Hagbolidik chayis legabe a mohus which has the shlemus of chayis is shlei be'erech klal. It's a arabavad because gvul legabe blikvol is not even a percentage. The guf's life, let's say 10 years, whatever it is, is not a percentage of a etzem chayis, which has chayis without agbola, which is the mahus of chayis. Chayis nashlim is the gaifen. A little bit is not a percentage of the mahus of chayis without agbolas, of chayis b'shlemus. So if the nefesh had, if you say seichel harav is not seichel b'shlemus, seichel harav is a certain svara. So the Talmud is echat a bissel verstanden. But if the Rav's mahus was seichel b'shlemusay, seichel on agbolas, so then what's Shaykh Zagan a bissel from a little bit of blik vol? It's not trying to say a little bit of blik vol. So then if it would be a little bit partial, so then it's a arable vad. So in the nefesh is etzem achai. He has chayis without a certain form and limit of chayis, the shlemus of chayis. So it's not a certain form of chayis. It's chayis in its ultimate shlemus, which is without a tzir. The guf's chayis is a certain agwaldik chayis, so it's a arable vad.
When is it not a hara?
If the elyon is a davar mugbal, so the tachtin is a little bit more agbala, but it's a mohus. But if the elyon is the nekuda without a gvul, so the tachtin, which is the expression in a certain form, it's the gila in a certain form, is never going to be there. Say for a couple of years, the nefesh is nizgala beguf. It's nizgala and it's nirgash that the guf is chai. And it's realized the pile. Someone can measure how much did this person live. What did he do? You can be maided how much chaim, how much was nizgala. The gila can be maided, but that gila is the heart of avad gabi the mahus, because the mahus is the mahus of chaim without a certain agbala of how much. The musik of how much and how big doesn't apply to the etzem, which is the resource of chayis. It's the makir. The nefesh doesn't have chayis in agbala keifen. He's the ideal of a mahus, the ideal of the shlemus of chayis. Every nefesh says that every nefesh has ezer keches b'shlemusa. Mitzad the etzem nefesh is not agbalas. All mitzad how much is nizgala b'guf, the guf is not a keli to the whole seichel. But mitzad the etzem nefesh, every nefesh represents an etzem, a shleimus in the mahus of chayis. He's not mamish mayach. He just says it over here. Just the guf inyan. The etzem nefesh ain't begeder chayis lachis. I mean, the etzem nefesh is not begeder a mocker for a gbolitika type of life. Chayis lachis means a chayis based on zbata begoli in the guf is a vifel at the guf galept. You could be made it. How much the life that's mizgal in the guf. The etzem nefesh is not the geder medida. It's the mahus of chayis. It's a chay be'etzem. Chay be'etzem means that he has chayis not in a specific form. He's the mahus of that inyan, the etzem of the inyan, without agbalus, the shlemus of that inyan.
Yeah, shpa from etzem will be a hara.
Yeah. If there's ashpa atzmis, like heilada, so then there's like a mahus, which is neilad mizeh. If the etzem alein gets chares, that's the musik of ben. That's the different shal. That's a different retash. That's Hemshech ranat. He speaks about the dafka, the tip of gashmis. Davar gashmis is a keli to etzem. So mashin nimshach lahaki, so hoar levad. So if you look at the guf, so the word is what's the maskana? It's not the pshat that the nefesh is misamtzin, so given a bissel chayis to the guf. The nefesh is chayis without a gewisse tzir of chayis. When that muhus, which is pashut, is meir, is nirgash, so there's chayis begoli. But the chayis begili is because the etzem is not mugbal to be dafkin away of etzem. So he's meir. When he's meir, so it's a leicht begoli. So we have an expression lapel. We have a life lapel, a guf which is living. But it's not that there's no tzimtzum. It's the muhus is also begili. So the gili alein is arab avad. He says, well, once you say the word is gilui, so the word is not that the shemesh is misamtzim, not that the nefesh is misamtzim to be b'lefi erech haguf. The nefesh is nishar kamei shehu. Because the Nevesh is not mugbal to be in Dafkin Nisir of Etzem, Hertes, he's Begali, he's Mizgale. So who's being Begili? The Etzem Kamesha who is Begili? There's no Tzimtzum. What if Manish Tam the Musig over that Vibal the Makir is not mugbal, that is Mahos should be Dafkin in a way of Etzem, so he's also Meir. So what's Meir? He's Meir Kfishu. So that's Er Meir Amar. What's Manish Tam the Gili? Because the Makir is not mugbal to Dafkin Nisir of Etzem, in a Ifan of Etzem. So he's Mispashit. So he's Mispashit Kameshu. He's not Mitzamtzim. It's Er Meir Amar. It's the Makir being Mispashit. Or Chassidus we do of let's say as the marshal of
So why is the Chayis not believable?
Be'etzem it is, but it's in Gilui. Be'etzem the Chayis which the Guf is living is the same Chayis with the Nefesh is. Chayis is blikvul take. But how much is being expressed? Gilui cannot express blikvul because it's being lived in actuality. Actuality is going to have a limit. But be'etzem, what's being nirgasher is a davar bulti mugbo. What's being felt is a davar bulti, but the fact that it's being felt, but you can't feel it. If you're only a keli to the Indian the way it is begilui, you can't sense the Indian the way it is be'etzem. The same way to get the shimshna gibra. What's pushing what's breaking the table is okay af blikvul. The makabel that's looking at it, we have no kelim to see blikvul. So we see a table breaking, we see a pool of pratis. The fact that there's blikvul behind it, but it's not begilui. The gilui is not going to bring out the blikvul shabazeh. The fact that what's begilui, the mar is going to be in asbat of different things. The fact that the is that muhos being mizgale, it's going to cause a couple of differences. He's going to speak about it later. Marshal, one thing of Chassidus is that it says in Chassidus that Eisher Shemeir Palter and Gdelim, or let's say when you get the Chayis even, the same you say if it would be Shefa. So let's say the Reish is more of a Keli to Chayis, and the Regel is less of a Keli to Chayis. There's more, the Chemera Baha Regel is more gas than the Chemera Reish. So, but you don't see that the head is more alive than the foot. Life, the whole Guf lives b'Shavah. If it would be an Eifan of Shefa, that if the Chayis would be Misamtzim, according to the Gilui, so the Reish is more of a Keli to Chayis, because there's less Helam Dirmitz at the Chemera Guf, and the Regel is less of a Keli to Chayis. If the Chayis would come measured according to how much is able to be, how much the Makabal would be, the Reish would live more than the Regel. The Reish should be more alive. The Reish is not more alive. They're all alive equally because the same Mohus, the same life that's in the head is the same life as the Nefesh. So it's the same Nekudas HaChayis. The head is not more alive than the foot, and a greater mensch is not more alive than a smaller person, than a Ishgas. Because it's the same mohos of chayis, which is not mitztayer according to the Makabal. It's the same mohos of chayis. It's just nirgash. It's nirgash and this goes nirgash, but the same nekud is mere everywhere. Lepoil in the gilui you don't see chayis blikvul because lepoil I could measure the fact that this guf is alive. I could measure how long it's going to be alive. Let's say, but the life, the mohos of the life, not the way this mohos is being nizgale, how much I could see of it. The mahus of this life is b'shava everywhere. It's the same mahus. How much this mahus is being expressed, say openly, is wasn't the shaila, but the mahus is the same mahus everywhere. But let's see. Oh, he just adds another prat when you get the chayis that you don't have an air. He says like this. But he has like this. You see the guf kenish beleven etzveit zach. Why not? Even though the guf alone is alive, but the guf can't be mechayis something else. Mashik in the nefesh is from the fact that the nefesh he says like this by Hashemesh we don't see the mitzias etzem from the The fact that it's audible vad, so we know that the makar is not mukbal. But you can't see from the gilui, you don't see that there's netzem. You see that the shemesh is davar bahir, but that the behirus is a davar atzmi in the shemesh. That's not nikr in the Mashigam when you get to the nevesh, you say that when you have the gilui nevesh beguf, From the you see that the nefesh is a chai be'etzem. It's a chai, it's mehusis to be, it's mehusis chayis. It's not chayis ba'agbola. How do you see? Because the nefesh, lepoil, ba'er ha-shemesh, the shemesh shines in the world. Like, there's the shas shemesh is here, it's a wird lichtig auf der Welt. But the Welt wird nicht kein lichtige Welt. The world stays the same world that it was before the shemesh came here. The shas, the shemesh is here, there's light in the world right now. V'shegam b'chayis ha-nefesh and guf, the guf itself becomes the davar chai. It's not that b'shas the nefesh is alive, b'shas the person is alive, the guf stays be'atzmei davar doimim, and in it there's a chayis. Like I say, when you get to the ayin, it's not that the ayin sees. There's a kayach hariyah which sees through the ayin. So there's a live nefesh that functions through the guf, but the guf himself is not alive. The guf itself becomes a davar chai. So the fact that the nefesh is able to be appealed, that not only stamas that the guf should become a davar chai, even machan the tachton, that's only because the nefesh is b'mehusei chai. If the nefesh should, you say, but the shemesh you don't have that, because the shemesh is not transforming anything. The shemesh is light, it's mere light. Nothing is transformed because of the shemesh. So you could say that the fact that the shemesh has a certain amount of light, let's say, and that light is able to be mispashet. And sheikh, when you get to chayis, if the nefesh would have its inyan bagbala, so then you have your inyan. Wie kannst du immer machen als Veter? How could he transform that the guf should also become a davar chai? If he himself was makabel his inyan, so he has the inyan how much he received it. How could he transform something else should become that way? But if the nevesh is the mahus, he's the mahus of chayis, he has the inyan without akbalis, so he's able to affect that something else should become his inyan. If you're the mahus, you're able to affect that the makabel should become your inyan too. Iber machen, that to transform the other. If you're a mahus of chayis. That's the mashmos.
Why, if I'm a Hagbola, I can't give you anything?
Because you have how much you contain. You don't have the resource.
So I can't give you a little.
You have the pil mamish of the inyan. You have the how could you revive? And the makabel doesn't have it. So you have it. He doesn't have it. But if that's your mahus be'etzem, and you're the mucker of the inyan, so yeah, when you're mayor in something, so that thing becomes a part of your inyan. Your gilui is not michutz to you. Your gilui is bringing the makabel into you, into the mohos. By chayis you see that the gilui is not a mitzvah of neatzman. It's the gilui atzim. Because when the guf is chay, the guf itself becomes a part of the nefesh. It doesn't stay at the zar. Michutz la nefesh. That means that there's a mohus. There's an nekudas ha'etzem which is here in the chayis la'achis. If we don't nekudas ha'etzem, then the mitzvahs would stay a davar zar shem v'chutz. The fact that it itself becomes a davar chay, it itself is misachet with the mohus, means that the gilui is connected to an etzem. If the gilui wouldn't be connected to an etzem, so the gilui wouldn't make that the zulas should become part of his mohus. Das verstandig Dominion. Gehen ein bisschen weiter. Okay, this prat in jedem Vers nefesh is a madrege one nefesh. We did that last time. Means, yeah, that's not verstehen a bisschen. How do you see from here that the gilui is what's l'chore it should be if the I'm saying stamazeh. What's the pashut pshat? If the sheresh nefesh is from chesed. So why shouldn't why is that totally in the fact that it's b'derech that the eir is mein amor? Means the fact that the sheresh hanefesh is in b'chinas chesed. If the guf uvus b'derech shel shefa, that the chayis that the nefesh should be mashpiyat to the guf, how much the guf is able to contain. The fact that the sheresh hanefesh comes from chesadim wouldn't have a shaychus to the guf. The guf is just being kabel chayis that it should be alive. But the fact that this nefesh is sheresh michsadim wouldn't have been expressed in the guf. That's much more here. I'm saying, but it's not so clear. I'm saying this. You say when you get this b'shef is mashal Rav Talmud. So the Rav is bein arich to the Talmud. The Rav is being mitzamtzim meseichos should be masim to the Talmud. So things that are characteristic to the Rav, to his way of understanding, is not going to be nizgal by the Talmud. Only the part of the seichos that's masim to the Talmud. So Al derech here, the fact that sheresh nefesh is from chsadim, that wouldn't have to do with ashpah to the guf. The guf would just get, but I'm saying why not? Maybe that inyan would also be able to be in the stance. Even worse nefesh is madrege one nefesh. The etzem of the nefesh. Shoshim khnas chsadim khnas gvulis. Shab bisul kim khnas meichen midas. Yeah, that's interesting. Chazer shalid me'or. Vashi gile etzem shemein etzem. Means because it's the gile etzem kameshu. But if it would be at tzimtzum, yeah, it sounds like this Indian that the b'sham yishershim ichsadim is not a person Indian that the guf is a keli to. It's not. We're not dealing with a psadavar prati. Say seichel amidus. Let's say. So you have the ivarim in the nefesh. Say ayin. The keichari is melubash in ayin, and then seichel is melubash in the mayach. Then midus melubash belief. This good b'sham yishershim ichsadim is not the pshat stamazay. It's a different character of the nefesh. It's a general mode. It's a general Indian that his general mohus was from chsadim. It's not that he had a. I'm saying it wasn't something. Is a say b'shamim b'silol. So b'shamim's midas agvura was more b'teikif. Nish b'gin dem netzach. That his midas agvura was more b'gali. His kolos hanefesh was from the kav, a style of life of chsadim. That the guf has no keli for that. The labor is a keli for midas, but the general the fact that he's from kav chsadim, a certain tnu of chesed. That's not the midas of chesed. So it's a general tnu of chesed. That's the inner. The guf is not a keli to. That's because the is mein amar. Versteht ihr mich? You understand between kavach sadim or midas chesed, midas agvor? It's a different Indian. You have stamid. You have chesed. You have kav yamin, kav smell, and kav inside. So you have in midas. You have two efanim and how the midas are how you mechal the midas. There's chacham midas das chesed gvor teferes. See, chesed is a musik of kindness. A midas a chesed to give. Gvor is gvor and there's teferes. Then there's kavim. Kav yamin. Kav yamin says chachma, chesed, and netzach from kav yamin. Kavimin doesn't mean the tnu of giving. It's not the mid of kindness. It's a tnu of ashpa, a general tnu of gili. It's the kav of chsadim. It's a tnu of gili. It's not a tzir prati of a mid of chesed. It's the kav gvura is the mashal bina is on the same kav smeil as gvura, because the kav of not a kav that the alien is mizgale, but a kav of the halas atach. It's a nekuda klolis. They have sayin bina, sayin gvura, and sayin heid. It's not the tzir prati of the middle. Or so the feres is the skalus. So the feres has a davar prati is rachmim. As a kav emtzoi, it's the kav which is mechaber two tnuas. So it's a tnu of chibur tnuas. Not that you have the chibur tnuas the way it's mizbat in rachmim. You have chibur tnuas the way it's mizbat in das. But what's the kav emtzoi? The tnu of being mechaber aspects. So it's not a davar prati. The tnu of being mechaber aspects. Or so you have a tnu of gili. You have the tnu of gili the way it is in meichin. You have the tnu of gili the way it is in midas, which is gmim mizbat in the tnu of nesina, let's say chesed. You have the tnu of gili the way it's in netzach yisayt. You have the tnu of heder ashpa the way it's in bina, the way it's in gvura, but it's a tnu of klolis. It's not a davar prati of a tzir prati of a midah. So you have bina, then you have the tnuah sagvura, which is in bina. That's a certain general tnuah that's there. That's what's in the Indian. It's not the same. So that it's not a davar prati. It's a general mode that the guf has no. There's no nikud in the guf which is a keli for it. Because you have the ayin is a keli for the keichariya. But where's the guf a keli to the general tnuah of chsadim? The guf is not a tnuah. The general tnuah, the guf is just basar vatzamis. In a Varim Pratim, you have the guf is masim is a keli for this Indian, the guf is a keli for that Indian. A guf is a tzir, a metzias. So it's a keli for this tzir, a keli for that tzir. But a keli for a kav is a different Indian. As I just bring at this point, you say there's a mahalach. A mahalach is not a svara pratis. A mahalach is a certain general way. Al dare say kav chsad and kav gvur. It's not a mida pratis. It's a certain style nefesh. The guf, there's nothing in the guf which makes it a general thing in the guf. There's a style of this guf. The guf is a chaymer. There's a style of gvuris in this guf. So the fact that Beis Shammai there was chsadim, that's because the gilei nefesh, the gilei is in ve'ena etzem. If we it's at tzimtzum, then this the klolis of the nefesh wouldn't be mizbat in the guf. That's the mashmos here. Yeah, I'm saying Beis Shammai were bali chesed also. It wasn't pshat that they were, and even in Meichen, in Meichen a person trying to understand something the way it is lamitase. But his nefesh was shayches to the tnu of tzimtzum. It's a general thing. So since his nefesh is shayches to the tnu of tzimtzum in general, to the tnu of restriction, so that was mizbat the sign is Meichen, sign is midas, a general tnu of gvura. It's not a a tnu of siluk, whatever, a tnu of hala, of remus. So there's remus and meich and remus and this, but the tnu of remus itself is a nekuda klolis, a nekuda mufshetis, not an ametzias pratis. You have this nekuda mufshetis, the base mizbata, in all the different pratis to get Shiur. And this nekuda mufshetis, the fact that it was begoli in the guf, there's no nekuda klolis in the guf that makes it a keli for this. That's the mashmos. A davar chiyuvi in the guf. So the ayin, so the chemer ayin has a certain type of characteristic that makes it a keli to the keichariya. But there's no davar kloli in the guf that makes it keli for this klolis to get tnua of gvuras that Bishama had. That's the mashmos. So we take this is galig gevarn because men amar. So the chai, who's the chai? What's the chai that the guf is getting? Is the etzva nefesh being mispash? The etzva nefesh is chesadim, so that's going to be nirgash. Be nirgash a general tnua of chesadim. Ja, das ist eine interessante Sache. Das ist verstandig der Menü. Okay, we did a couple of aces here. Kim Shemir Beguf, Kim Shemir Beguf, Mila Guf Mechai Menu. Okay, then he has a certain arichus over here. Is that bekannt with them? He has a negate er shemish l'mashal. You don't say this. The shemish is mere everywhere, and even in a place that's not a keli for it, a makim of dirt, a mere makim ashpa. So the makabel needs no achana. Why does the makabel need no achana? Because since the yisayid of the ashpa, there's no tzimtzum here. It's mitzad the teva of the mashpia, because he's a mispashel, because he doesn't contain his inyan within himself. He has a certain starkheit or a certain head, a certain tnu of not being locked within himself. So the melee is mispashel. That's when you get so melee man have come into the makabel. The mashpia is inyan. When you get to the guf, but we see it's nicht as it. The guf has to be mucham the kabel sanefesh. One of the Reis Chassidus brings it that when you get to Gulgulim, if you have the nefesh is megulgul, you have the musik of Gulgulim, that the neshama is mizgalgul b'gufei b'alechaim, and the nefesh is not mizgalgul there. Why? Because the guf of Balchai is not a keli to the gilei nefesh. But l'chorah it's not b'geder keli, it's b'derech gilei. So why do you need Rav Achana? So that's factor. Mash that tzarich li is achana seguf the kapot tzuras nefesh. So he says that's only achana klolis she guf adam v'le guf Balchai. Means it's not that the guf Keli b'derech klam, you say when you get to Rav Talmud. Keli means that the fact that Talmud is mekabel the seichel Rav, because the seichel Rav is the fi erkei. The chelik of the seichel that is mekabel is the fi erech the meich Talmud. He says chayis never comes the fi erech guf. Varai the same guf is made by al b'shavet. But you need to have a tnu klolis that is a guf adam v'lei guf v'lachai. He doesn't explain here what he's just being garaya that it's not b'derech keli. If it was b'derech keli, then it wouldn't be enough achana klolis. Then you would have to be mas and be the fi erech chayis. You just have to have a nekuda klolis to be a guf of adam, a tzir of a guf adam, and not a tzir of a chay. Doesn't it? V'zel mash nirei kach li yismoch l'kabel tzuras nefesh. Aval achar kach in tzara shum achonayit. Inze kamei b'ashpa s'yichal mashpia l'makabel. So chleis is askas ha-mashpia b'ashpa. Eichu ma l'ashpia sh'iskabel l'makabel. Because it has to be l'fi erik, even in klolis yitzis hanal. So that's this askas. So the mashpia eich l'havi is a seichel l'makabel kanal. And the makabel tzarech he gave is askas l'kabel s'seichel. The Talmud has to be fully focused. He has to be fully in a tnu of his amtzus to mekabel seichel Rav. Our chayis nefesh beguf ein tzarich lo yegis es ashkas haguf lekabel era nefesh lechisim men. Doesn't have to have any tnu of kiruv. You should have to be mishtadel epis to be mekabel chayis. V'lo yis ashkas haras nefesh lechis haguf. Ebazei. So why did I have to go? So he says tnu of clothes. But it's not in other places. Since the reason why he needs a tnu of clothes is because since the way chayis is pale is that the guf becomes a chay. Means the guf is mizbatel legamri. He becomes the elgin. B'shas selach der nefesh, the gilei nefesh is pale that the mekabel becomes the elgin. It's not lefi. He's not mitzamtzum lefi erech mekabel. The nefesh when this muhus is begilui, and the tchun of the etzem is that whatever he touches, that becomes a prat in him. That's the tchun of the gilei etzem, whatever the beard is. But chayis is amisor. The etzem is amisor zach that when he's nirgash. The makabel, which is margishim, becomes a part of him. So the guf becomes eis basar. The guf becomes a part of a lebedik mensch, becomes a davar chay. So that only a guf which could become the guf of bachai can kenish vern a chai von Adam. It's not because the chayis has to be misamsum l'fi erech haguf. Since it's not mitzimtzum, but since in a eifin of chayis the guf vert eis mitzias, so only a guf of Adam can vern eis mitzias. A guf of a chay kenish vern eis mitzias. Since the guf of a chay kenish vern eis mitzias, so it's as if you say the shemesh is not. If the guf of a chay can become eis mitzias, so what's going the nefesh can't be mizgala there. Because the gilei nefesh by definition has to be when the muhus is meir, the mahus doesn't leave space for mitzias outside of it. It can't be that the mahus of chayis is meir and it stays and there's a davar which is not chay. For some reason, I figure speaks about this in Asher and Tavshin, but this is just let's say it as a fact. So since chayis as Amos Zach, the b'shas it's meir, the mekabel becomes kol mitziusi becomes that. So you have to have a tzur close hachana the mekabel. He should be able to become eis mitzias. But it's not that the mekabel stays in mitzias and the chayis comes the fiyarket. Once you have a makabel, which is mesugel to become eis mitzias, he has that of sharis, so mitzad the nefesh he becomes eis mitzias. Yeah, but that's he doesn't go into what it says. If you go somewhere, there's more riches in this prat. He's just avoiding shaila. I brings v'tzarchlis the yidach we say another thing. Mash tzarch hanefesh that samsum esasmi lahachis aguf kidu. L'chore there is a tzimtzum. Zerak b'chdei shi yeshayich laguf lachyeser. K'mitzadatzmi already yene berach aguf klal. Tzarchlis tzimtzum hanefesh yeshayich laguf. Al kasher shayich laguf hari aguf melech haymen. He says another word. He says you need a tzimtzum not because the chay should be leferach aguf. You need a tzimtzum b'chdei. Was there? Hari yene berach aguf klal. I say derech he say that. You say you have Erlam Ayla, let's say, in Erlam Ruchni. So you say the Shemesh is Meir Lamata, but Er Ruchni is not Meir Lamata in Erlam Hazeh. Why? Because the Gabi Er Ruchni, the Mata is not Metzias B'chlal. A Mahus is Mispashit, he's Meir. He's Meir B'derech HaMeila, but in a world that's a Metzias Legabi Hin. Legabi Seichel Mashal Mishish doesn't exist. So it's not the pshat that the reason why the Nefesh has to be Misamtzim is because he has to be lefi erech haguf, because the guf doesn't exist in the world of the nefesh. He has to have a shaykhis to the mitzias of elam, to mitzias of a guf. The nefesh mitzad muhusin in chveis elam asaruchnim. There's no gather of guf b'chlal. So he's mispashing there tomorrow. There's no such a mekabel altogether. There's no such a mitzias altogether. You say avadi. You say the eres b'derech hamela. The makir is mizgale b'derech hamela. Since he's not mugol, mele is b'derech hamela mizgale. But he's mizgale in a world, in a mitzias, in an area which is a mitzias legabi. But without it tzimtzum, the nefesh mitzadatzma is an inyan ruchni, and the whole mitzias of guf doesn't exist like the nefesh. So you need a tzimtzum that the nefesh should be makir that there's a realm of guf. Once it comes into that realm, once the shemesh is ba'elam, it's mispashas become makim. Once there's a mitzias of guf like the nefesh was brought down to elam where gashmis is a mitzias, and there the nefesh is not mubul will be made in guf too. But that's a tzimtzum, not a tzimtzum to be lefi erech this guf. A tzimtzum that there should be a musig of guf, a gather of guf. That the nefesh doesn't have such a gather b'chal. That's what he is. This word. It's a higher inyan, yeah. It's like from a higher world. Yes, it has to come down from a siyar ruchnis to Elam Hazagashmi. Why? Not because it has to be lefi erech guf. Because if it's an asiyar ruchnis, the whole gather of guf doesn't exist in asiyar. There's no such a thing called a guf. So it's mispashit and it's bligvol, but it's bligvol b'mkaime. It's bligvol in what's called the mitzias, the gabi it. But the gabi of Muslim which is not called mitzias is not mispashit. I'm saying it's not considered a mitzias, the gabi the nefesh. See, a malach doesn't exist within our world. We don't know. He doesn't exist in our world. So you say something is bligvol. You're bligvol within the world that you exist, not within the world. Not within a mitzias which doesn't exist, the gabi this mitzias.
It's bligvol but not together.
Yeah, that's it. You can say it like that. It says in the Maimer of V'chola Amreim that it says that Mayim, because Mayim Rapshutim, so you could put any gavan. You say, if you have something that's brown, chves, or any red, you're going to color green on it, so you're not going to be able to see the green pure, because this tseva is a stir to another color. But if you have something with no color, water, so you put in a red cup, the water is going to look red. Green is going to look green. The water is a keli to any tzir because it has no specific color. It's the same thing it says the gabi. So why could you see red in water? Not because water is shaykhis to red. Not because water has an alulus red. Because it has no tzir. If it has no tzir, it could suit with any tzir. So inside this pshittis, it could be masim with any tzir. As I state in Chassidus. The Idach, it says also same thing we get this to seichel. That midis, each you have a midis a chesed and a segvura. But in seichel, because seichel is pashut, so it could be mislabish in any tzir. And so the Chassidus brings a dogma. They say Yetzer Levadam Ramen Urav. The svara is that the person is Yetzer Hara Ramen Urav. Was kommt der from their svara? From this gedank, Yetzer Levadam Ramen Urav. Or b'meila, he's not worth anything. B'meila emchenu. Or b'meila, we have to be nice to him. We should feel bad for him. Once, if you're in a tnua of, because he's Yetzer Levadam Ramen Urav, therefore, in midas you're already mugder in a kav. You're a mugder, or maybe you have to be nice to him, or not nice to him. When you the gedank itself, it's a svarah pshut. You can take this gedank because it has no netiyah to chesed u'tikbura. It's the idea itself that Yitzer le'van ram nodav. Now you could take it to different angles. So it's also the same thing. But this pshit is it could say being a eifin that this svarah will be mechayev, that we have to be danim. We have to be meichim, or fakir to be a tunu of chesed. It's the same thing. So Chodesh ask a shayla, since the reason why the seichel is seivel seiches and seigvura, because it's mufshit. So why can't you have red mamish, red and green? Tzad pshitas seichel, you should be able to have red and green mamish. It's anyway mitzad this pshitas. So the same way mitzad this pshitas, you can have ches and gvura. It says pshitas means that it's not mugdar in a certain tzir, so it could contain any tzir. But a tzir that's a metzias legabi its welt. A metzias that's a reality. The Gabi Seichel, red and green stam colors don't exist. They're not considered in its category. There's no such a gather. And same way, Mayim is pshitim. So maybe you should have chesed gewurah from Mayim. Mayim is a mitzias gashmis. So the pshitis is going to be expressed that any type of mitzias it's able to contain. But a mitzias which is a mitzias the Gabi it, not a mitzias which doesn't exist the Gabi its world. So the nevesh is misfashed. It's not mugbal, so it could be misgal to any mekabel. But a mekabel which is a mitzias the Gabi the mashpia. But the Gabi and Nefesh, the way it is in Asir Ruchnis, there's no gather of Gashmis there. It's a different thing. Yeah. So then he's from Omnom. Matzah Oltin Zon Rizal Kasher Shaykh Gufri Gufim Melchaim. You know, he's a good one. Shana. Warum Ahmed the Kabel Bar. Mele Mishkam Razal Sagana. Kmeken at Sintra Kabel Nefesh Guf Shi Shaykh. V'Charka Charim Chayis Guf B'Derech Melchu. Because the fact that the Chayis is B'Derech Melchu belitz tir the vis askus ulefi shor or levad. Sham Shachav Achayis Ubchinas Er. Yeah, it means it's that the makir k'meishuhu is begilui. Memelo bliter devis askish in intvis mizlabris. So it means he's not mitztayer in the tzir of ashpa laguf. It's the etzim k'meishuhu because he's not mugul. He dafkan the tzir of etzim is also begilui. That's it. So now, why do you need two mashalim? Well, we'll go start the scene and the Hachodesh can svarim. It's kedai to go weiter or Hachodesh can svarim. I don't know. It's, Huh? I have the sefer, but I'm saying I don't know what's kedai. These pratim already are. Now we go through the miles of each one. Bevor wir weiter, ich weiß nicht was. So we'll do it Sunday. We go weiter. So now you start speaking miles in each one. So there's a mile in Shemesh, there's a mile in Nefesh. First he speaks about the mile that the Shemesh has a certain that means the Shleimus ha'er we don't have in the Mashal. We don't have any Eifen Ashpa of Er which is B'Shleimus the way it is Lamaila. So we only have, there was Masber in the Sichagrada that the Kafan al Yena was that all the Inyanim in Alukus should be the Nevrem should have Yidi in Alukus. So Mela the Brio is Na'ifin that all the Inyanim Lamaila were Nishtal Shalamata. In a way that the mata should be a mashal in Yanim L'mayla. Be'emes, every nivra is a mashal to a certain Inyan Elokus. Because the Kavan al was that it should be a kar in the nivra min Elokus. So therefore, the Eifen Eishavas was, not the Eifen Eishavas, but the way the Eivishat Angesh the Seder Shtashal is, that all the Inyanim L'mayla are Nizgala L'mata and a mashal. But since L'payel, they were dealing with nivraim, and each nivra is a mugbal, so you don't have the real tnu, that was mashal, the musik of Er. The true musik of Er, that there's no, the alien stays k'meishuhu mamish. There's no tnuah of tir devis askos. He has to have any tnuah of kiruv to the makabel. And the reason why he's begili is because he's not mugbal. B'meili is an alifanim. He could also be begili because the etzim has this muhus he has the muhus without the davar hamagbil of etzim and gilui. The shlemas of this Indian only exists l'mayla. The Eibush is damitis abligvul. So the Eibishter is not limited to be dafke in a way of etzem. He's bleak vol. For the Eibishter, the Indian of Gilo is derech mele b'amitius. Mashiach and nivra, each nivra is be'etzem mugbal. So the mashal, since a nivra is mugbal, you do not have the shlemus of in the ultimate form. So each nivra has a certain chisaron. Therefore, you need both mishal to bring out the shlemus in you. As we start saying this, he says, nefesh, ervechais nefesh, hari etzem mugdar by his pashtus. Mechashu mechai guv zeh yashol achis guf acher. Lepel chayis, the nefesh, mitzad atzmo, is not connected to any mekabel. Mash igim, shas the nefesh is mechayis a guf, there has to be, in other words, even though we're saying that er is derech hamele, there has to be some, so the shlemus of derech hamele is, the mashpia is legamri mufshitz from the mekabel. There's no shaychas klal between the mashpia and the mekabel. Ay bazeh via zeh, the mekabel hotem, because the mashpia is not mugbal. So the Chatchili doesn't have to have any kiruv. The Chatchili is not mugbal. Mashiach, the Nevesh is mugbal. So the fact, so even though it's a certain aspect, there's a tnu of blikvol that's nisbat in chayis and nefesh, but since of course it's a nivra, so the fact that the nefesh is mechayid this guf is because there's a connection between the nefesh and the guf. There's a special kavana. The nefesh has a certain kavana that is mashlam being mechayid this guf. There's a davar which is mechaber the nefesh with the guf. The amitis inyan of as the derech hamele, cannot exist in the mashal. So the nefesh, the akbala is that the nefesh is mugder to this guf. It means right. Kidum ashkos bezeh. Sharashbi shom eliyom primale hayi bayiter. Why didn't Yona become to the army? Because he tzarich lahatzel revnun esave v'chaveirav. Pirush b'kel berama l'chura eliyo could be common cases at one time. So what's the gedaft? Why? What's the teres? It wasn't in the idra because you had to say for revnun esave. So to answer them was that for revnun it says shazel if you shahoy tzarich lislabish beguf b'shel kedesh revnun esave. Basically, wasn't when the ma'aser darten. But in order to help him, because of the covet of Nun Sava, you have to be mislabish in a guf. And the slapshus beguf, even though it's a derech hamela, but there has to be a kiruf. But I never can resign that Amit Sinam derech hamela that the nefesh stays k'meish shehum mamish, mufshitz mashaychas the makabel, and afal became the makabel left for them. If the makabel is living for him, there has to be some tnu of kiruf, of kesher from the mashpiyah to the makabel. Mele efshalis beguf acher. Kenefesh achas efshalis beslabish beguf. That's from the kel berama. Mashal yo nimtza bekol bris mila. And he's there bekam came is b'shah achas. He's only futzis imen, not the Abraham. He shenevish mugdar baguf. So this prat that on one hand the mashpia has no shaychus klal to the mekabel. Elukus has no shaychus to the welt. Shas the Eibishter is mehr, Elukus is mehr in welt. Kabbalah used the lashon is that the Eibishter stays k'meishum so that's mushit from welt. And now it became the welt left from him. Vat machayis kula. Even though the Elyon has no kir of klal. The gabi the etzem of Elukus, there's no tzimtzum. Ava became, it's at the bleak vol, there could be a velt that could also live from it. So that you don't have in the nefesh, the sinner. Humans are maybe shemesh. The shemesh ain't in mugder. Era shemesh should become makim b'shar. The shemesh is not the pshat the shemesh is mugder to the mekabel. The shemesh has no idea who's the mekabel. It doesn't relate to any of the mekabel. It stays in its element. And all mekabel b'shavar, mekabel is there. So the gama shapil b'tzmachim, even pula pnimis of the shemesh, tzmachim, meged fuah shemesh, kai gam shar, bekel b'shar achas. I mean, by the shemesh you see that there's no tnu of kiruf klal between the shemesh and the makabel. Even if he's pele pula primis in the makabel, meged tfuah shemesh, certain tfuahs that are nitzmach through the but the shemesh has no kiruf to the makabel. So he's poil b'derech hamela. I the Elyon has no shaychus to this nifal, but he's blik vol. So he doesn't have to have a shaychus. It's a different name. But the shemesh is different chisaron. The shemesh is muchrach ba'gilui. The shemesh ein zet tali b'chinas hashemesh. Ula ma'ila ein shaychus chrichus chas v'shalom. So here, the way he says it here, the mashmal says that shemesh is muchrach l'hoyer, and the ma'ila you can't say David was forced to do anything. So the mashmal says that the chisaron is not a chisaron in the mashal of air. The chisaron of shemesh is the mashal of air is a very good mashal from shemesh. Problem is that the shemesh is muchrach, and the ma'ila is no hechrich. So that's fine. Well, I need another mashal for that. L'chura, it's not a chisaron in air. That's the fact that Eibush is not muchrach in anything has nothing to do with air. We'll see later. This amitis ha'air is that it's beratz and avodah hechrich. They see from the beginning the next time. If the shemesh, if the air, the mashpia is mugbal, that the air has to be mered behechrich, it's not amitis in an air. That means that there's a certain, the air is not an arab fat mamish. The air is a certain tnu of another mitzias outside of that. We'll have to see in the next time. So even though it doesn't say mefurish but that's the havana here. If the whole chisaron of hechrich was tam chisaron because the lukus you can't say that he's muchrich, then it has nothing to do with the mashal of air. Then it would be a good mashal for air. And b'chlad, Eibush is not muchrich. Kol hashchavetz Hashem asam. So we don't have to. But it's a chisaron in air. That we'll see later.
It's like a tzimtzum.
We'll see later. We'll see the next time he touches this. The nefesh, even though the nefesh is, he says, even though the inyan of air. The Nefesh has the tchuna. In this prat, the Shemesh has the inyan of air b'shleimus. In this prat, that air which is derech hamela means an air hashpa which is nevemis at the bleak wall of the alien. One of the tnaim is that the shleimus of gilui is that it's beratzin. The shleimus of hashpa which comes with derech hamela is with eifin sharatzin, and the Shemesh taket the giluyim are with eifin sharatzin. Brings first means a raya. Ki achaliyesh is alam erev agilui yochol batzmas. See when you get to the Nefesh, come maybe go gulon achon l'tzlan. Nefesh adam l'gals begufa behema. And it's not begili. Im ba behema shum eschachas mizeh. Hanevish hanevish mizum tzemesh sham legamri ve'er v'agili kolu be'etzim. Then the etzim taka is not begili. The etzim blight behelim. So we see that the shemesh.
Said he can't go to behema.
Verstehe. But if the nefesh would be muchrach to begili, it would have to be meir somehow. If the nefesh would be like the shemesh, that it's muchrach and gilui, so how could the nefesh be somewhere in a way that it's behelim? The poil, the gufa behema is not a keli to the chayis nefesh. Fine, but the question is, how could the nefesh be in a way that's not nirgash? If the nefesh is murchach by gilui, so the shah is how would it be? There's a what is it here?
I'm in the old prince here.
Yeah, there's a maimer of there's a shakvatari. What's the pshat? L'chora the nefesh, the frigga goes through a shakvatari. L'chora the gufa is not a keli, but he says Alpha Bikain.
Meaning the nefesh is not
The nefesh should have the pearl. The nefesh is not begili. Where the nefesh is megulgal begufa b'chai, it's not the pshat that it's begili and the gufa is not. Then the etzim stays b'halomi. The chayis stays in the etzim. It doesn't express itself. It's not. He brings over here the mashal, or he brings the Gabi Avram Avinu. That's the kavash rachmov, father and son also. The regesh of rachmim is a davar memele, but it wasn't. Not only Avram Avinu, he didn't feel rachmim in his heart at that time. It means a davar atzmi of Avu Ben. It wasn't begili. His heart didn't feel rachmim at that moment. Kavash rachmim, that in his leif hagashmi wasn't nirgash midas rachmim. Not that he felt rachmanis and he held himself in. In his leif he didn't feel rachmim at that moment because the gila nefesh is beratzin. So if someone that has in touch with his etzma nefesh, if it's heipach retzayni that his inyan should be begili, so will stay behelim, won't be begili. And there the leif is a keli for rachmim, but you see that the giloim of the nefesh are beratzin, not behechrich. The shemesh, you can't say the shemesh is going to decide one day that its light's going to be behelim. Here's just being the rise. The next time he explains why dafka when the gili is beratzin, it's amitas in a gili. That explains the next time. It touches of similar. Come here, of a song. This practic got be gufa behema. The l'chora maybe it is begili, but the gufa is not margish. There's a Friedrich Rebbe has a back and forth in a moment. Remember when the Sham Shlover Rachma of Nechidish is on the Gamrish. Im lo ha'im es alim midas avarachma the Gamri le efshir lias she a pelke dabei. If he wouldn't have been a salim, the midas harachim wollten nicht gekannt schechten. Wie sagt zu sein? Means because the Evish hat ihm gesagt va'aleu, he had to be kuli in the tnu of va'aleu. So he had to be mailim that he shouldn't feel rachim by Yisrael. But the Avil of Neichide, he's Teves. It means it's the Dover Atzmi, the Avil of Neichide. Umikom can be choti lahalim. So it's not a psamidat pratis. He's mailim the something which is never from his etzim. Move on shagili yiratzenis. Meyesh in honor margishim shagili keresativ mei biratzen dafke. Umikom can be zeshi bechoti lahalim. Move on shagili biratzen dafke. The Rebbe Shav saying here, but etzim even by every person, the fact that the keches are begili are because the nefesh there's a ratzon nefesh to be begili. Means if it would be, we don't have the ability to misali, but if there would be a musik that the netzim nefesh loses the ratzon for the gili, what does this alam govern? Umikom can be the kanal the chaim is on melim misnaneh. Leal the Teves asko. Hanat vishu ar lavad lechenu shleal the Teves asko. Here the mashmos says that the ratzon is like a mikom again. Means the way that the Rebbe, the lashon the Rebbe Shav uses is if it's derech hameila, that means that the alien is blik vol, so naturally it should be with derech hechrich. When do you have to want something? If the inyan is totally in a pu'ula, means you have to be mitzam. If the Rav, without doing anything, the seichel is only going to be in the me'ech harav. In order for it to be the me'ech hatalmid, they have to be mitzam. So that's totally b'rtzeini if he wants to be mitzam or not. Mash'egin if the fact that the inyan is begil is derech hameila, because the alien is not mugbal. The me'ela is also mispashit. So why is it totally b'ratzin? So the way he says it here is that's the kilu b'derech mikomaken. Even though the gili is b'ratzin, still it's b'derech hameila. But the midas advarim is that it's totally zebazeh. We'll see in the next time. Just a lush in the way he says it. But the truth is that dafka when the air is baratzin is hamitas air. I will see it. Just the lush he says it is v'derech mikomaken.
The chayra does make sense, right?
Chitzenius makes sense. That since because if it's v'derech hamela, so it was totally in his ratzin. If he's bligvol, he's bligvol. I mean, he can't contain himself. he's l'chatchila not in the way of Etzem. He's l'chatchila not, he has the inyan with Aragbal, so why shouldn't we be Gili? But he's going to say later that it's true that it's verkehrt. We'll see in the beginning of the next time. I'm saying towards the beginning of the next time. Okay, we'll finish this. And again, only the next time. Also, this is Mamash Hemshech the next time with this time.